This week on the Virtual Skeptics. Bob is probably not a vampire. He probably isn't well. Barb probably is not on fire yet. And Tim is probably not here. I am your host with the most, because I feel like saying it. I'm Brian Berry. Welcome to our show. Happy
Welcome to the
holidays,
show.
everyone. Happy
How you doing?
Festivus. Hey, how you doing?
Doing good.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All things considered, things are
It's
good.
not awkward at all, Bob. Anyway. Hi. We're doing a show.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, and thanks for tuning in and all that stuff. And I'm going to do introductions, which I do every single show, which is, just something we do. So wait a second, and we'll get to the meat. But for now, let's be awkward. Okay.
It's one of our strengths.
Yes, one of our strengths. Okay. First up, we got Bob Blaskowitz, CSI's conspiracy guy and web columnist, blogger for Skeptical Humanities and Skepticality contributor. And this is Eve Siebert, editor and blogger at Skeptical Humanities and contributor to Skepticality and Insight at skeptic.com. And this is Barb Drescher, former psychology instructor, blogger at ICBS Everywhere, and contributor to Skeptical Projects at Insight at skeptic.com. And the odds must be crazy. And I don't know where Tim is. I'm sorry. I don't know where Tim is.
Yeah.
I'm sad because I missed him. Do we all miss Tim?
Of course we missed him.
Yeah.
He's probably out taking pictures of his fire hydrant.
I don't know what that means.
Why would he be taking pictures of his fire hydrant?
Check his Facebook or Twitter or Instagram feeds.
Oh.
I don't remember a fire
Apparently,
hydrant.
fire hydrant outside his house has dresses and outfits.
I have seen that. I guess that's his fire hydrant.
I don't know if it's his personally. I don't think he's the one dressing it up, to be fair.
Oh. It sounds like a worthwhile project, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, cats.
It looks like you have an ornament on your tree that has just the word live on it.
Let me see. Yes, I think that's what's going on right there.
Yeah.
It's convenient how that's placed. It's kind of like just right at the right spot.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. So, if you're watching the show and you're on the intertubes somewhere, if you're on Twitter, you can get our attention and we might read your stuff online with the hashtag Virtual Skeptics. If you're on YouTube, there's a chat room. And Pierre Cloutier and JD Mack have already been participating in that. I will try to keep, attention to that and include you in the shenanigans. Moving right along. We do stories and stuff next, right? I feel like there's something else that should be
the movie
here.
thing.
Yeah, the movie.
There's the thing.
We used to do a trivia. We don't do a trivia anymore.
Yeah. Anyway, so if you make up a trivia question and you answer it, we'll give you credit for that.
I won't.
Yep.
Well, except for Bob. But he's grumpy. Anyway.
He's a tough grader.
First up this week, we've got something really satanic, apparently. Eve is doing something about evil?
Yes. Well, always.
Well,
it's my passion.
More evil than normal.
Yeah.
I hope
well,
so.
and it's hard though to top the usual evil, but
that's true.
Whatever.
Anyway,
a Pennsylvania woman has won a court case against the Unemployment Compensation Board of Review. Now, that in itself, admittedly, is not that interesting.
It's not very
but
evil.
The backstory is more fascinating.
Okay.
Bonnie Kate began working for Altoona Student Transportation in 2001. In 2005, AST instituted more stringent background checks for its employees, including fingerprinting. Kate objected to the fingerprinting on religious grounds. According to the opinion in the case, Kate, quote, testified that she believes that fingerprinting is contrary to her religion, and if she submits to fingerprinting, she, and her own words here, will not get to heaven because I'm marked the mark of the devil. Petitioner based her beliefs on passages from the Bible and the preaching of her father, a Christian evangelist. She says she has a sincerely held religious belief, which constitutes good cause for not complying with employer's requirement. End quote. Kate asked whether she could submit to another form of background check that did not involve fingerprinting, but she was told no, that she would be on suspension until she agreed to the fingerprinting. She filed for unemployment compensation, but was turned down because she was suspended for willful misconduct and not complying with a directive. The lawsuit doesn't actually concern her dismissal from her position. Instead, it concerns whether she was wrongfully denied unemployment compensation. She argued that she had a legitimate reason for refusing her employer's fingerprint requirement. The Board of Review seems to have concluded that her reasons were personal rather than religious because she does not belong to any recognized church or religious organization, and her beliefs are primarily based on the idiosyncratic teachings of her father. And let's face it, even by televangelist standards, her beliefs are a bit odd. Revelation 13 describes a number of curious creatures. There's a dragon, obviously. It gives its power and throne to a seven-headed beast. Then there's another beast, a sort of vice beast or spokes beast.
Wasn't this clearly in one of the Omen movies? Wasn't this clearly identified as some thermonuclear reactor that's in the Middle East?
Sure.
Because nothing matters.
So we have Beast 2, who's a sort of vice beast or spokes beast from Beast 1. And Beast 2 orders humans to set up an image of Beast 1. Then it breathes life into that image.
Was Beast 1 blue?
Huh?
Was Beast 1 blue?
I don't think so.
No.
It breathes life into the image so the image can speak, making it a sort of Beast 3. Then Beast 2, or it might be Beast 3, the pronouns are not super clear. But a beast also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or their foreheads, so they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666, except it might be 616. There are a number of ways to interpret this. One, John of Patmos spent most of his time sucking colorful frogs. That's my interpretation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Two, it's all an allegorical way to refer to contemporary events, and the number of the beast's name, whether it be 666 or 616, represents Nero. That seems to be the conventional interpretation of sane biblical scholars.
Do they live in Michigan?
But then,
Do they live in Michigan?
616?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the past few decades, some evangelical Christians have concluded that the mark is either a tattooed UPC code or an implanted RFID chip. Some people are even deeply distrustful of credit debit cards with chips. There are religious conspiracy theories about the government using the mark to track and control people. But fingerprinting, I mean, it expands the idea of the evil government tracking people, but otherwise, it pretty much has absolutely nothing to do with the passage in Revelation at all.
Will she not be able, if she gets fingerprinted, will she not be able to buy and sell goods?
No, she
But she doesn't.
has to get fingerprinted to buy a silver. I don't know. But I mean, it would seem to me
It's
this
almost like
is
it doesn't make sense.
It takes forever
More
to take that ink off your hands, man.
Yeah, well, how about painting your nails or just getting a bit schmutzy?
Different
So
mark.
it's not a permanent mark.
Geschmutlich?
Yeah, sure. And the purpose of fingerprinting isn't to leave a mark on the body. Inking the fingers is a means to an end. You get the little piece of tissue, you wipe off the mark. And of course, it's not just the right hand either. And I would point out that Revelation absolutely does not say, and then it came to pass that the mark was applied, and the people wiped off the mark, but they were still screwed because of reasons. And lo, some carelessly caused their clothes to be stained with the mark. That is not in there.
That is, however, in the Mormon
And I had
Book of Mormon, you know? Yeah.
get a return.
And it came to pass.
Yeah. On The Friendly Atheist, David McAfee points out how silly the woman's beliefs are and argues, quote, "It's also hard to imagine that religious legal protections would apply to people who state that they don't have religious beliefs, but even if we grant that, I think it's dangerous to exempt people from thorough background checks based on religion. This is changing the rules to allow people to bypass security checks, and they don't even have to prove that it's part of their religious beliefs. It can just be something you heard, apparently." He also says that the judges compared Kate's refusal to getting days off to celebrate religious holidays. Unlike the judges, I don't see how this comparison works. Observing religious holidays doesn't raise any security concerns, and people do generally have to be a part of that religion to celebrate those days. It seems to me that he's actually being completely unfair. For one thing, religious holidays are not the only precedent the judges refer to. They also cite a case where a man refused to submit to a biometric hand scan. His own pastor testified that he didn't agree with his views, but that didn't matter in that case. The guy won, or the Equal Opportunity
He won?
Commission won, yeah.
Wow.
Same state?
No.
Okay.
In this case, the judges ruled that it was a religious belief, whether the woman actually attends a recognized church or not. She says, it's a family sort of service
This
or
is
worship.
this is the pitfall of allowing religious exemptions to things. Is that how do you prove it's a religious belief? You can't. We have no way of cracking somebody's brain open and seeing if they truly believe something.
Right.
You register these mutants. Oh, sorry.
Well, I don't know. If she's willing to lose her job over it, I'm willing to say it's probably a sincere belief and not just some litigious dirt weasel.
Right.
You know what I
More
mean?
importantly, though, this wasn't a wrongful dismissal case. McAfee talks about security concerns, but the case only concerns unemployment compensation. There may be circumstances when employers have a valid reason to dismiss an employee because their religious beliefs impinge on their ability to perform their job in some crucial way. As far as I'm concerned, any pharmacist who refuses to dispense any medication isn't doing his or her job and should be fired. Out of canon, preferably. As should any healthcare worker who refuses to get vaccinated.
Yep.
So I can see that it might be a problem to have an employee who works with children. I presume she works with children. To have a person contact with children refuse fingerprinting. And I'm totally fine with them firing her. But I don't see anything clearly wrong with this decision. I don't really have a problem with her getting unemployment compensation. She tried to reach a compromise. She was willing to do pretty much anything but fingerprinting.
All right. Well, then we get an ID chip. Then. No.
Yeah. But she and her employer were unable to reach a compromise, and fair enough. So where does this woman's beliefs are? I don't think it's some horrible disaster like the Hobby Lobby decision. A wackaloon can be a good employee. Kate appears to have been a good enough employee for 15 years not to get fired.
Here's the problem, though. The problem is it a stepping stone toward allowing the firing of people because of religious beliefs? Is it a stepping stone? Is it a stepping stone toward, say, well, actually that case is being decided right now in the Supreme Court, so that question will be moot, but
which
toward
case?
the cake case.
Yeah.
And I fear it may go in the wrong direction, but is this just another little wedge?
Well, I don't know, but reading the decision, it's not a new, it's not precedent setting because there were already precedents, as in the hand scan. So I don't see why she shouldn't get unemployment benefits, really. I don't see that it's a security issue, because at least this case, if there's more cases, I don't know, she's not requesting her or demanding her job back. She just wants the unemployment benefits.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, yeah.
These things are complicated.
Totally a crazy belief, to be fair.
Yeah, if that was a government job. Huh. But see, you'd still probably get, I mean, if for some reason your government job required a security clearance and you were unable to acquire it and they let you go because you didn't meet the standards, you'd still be able to apply for...
No, keep in mind she had the job already. You can't apply for unemployment if you don't get a job. You apply for unemployment after you've been let go from your job. And there aren't that many ways to be let go from your job. You're fired for incompetence, you're fired, or you're laid off for lack of work. And laying off for lack of work is a valid reason to apply for unemployment, because
it depends on the state too, I guess.
It does depend on the state, but getting let go for some other reason, it's sketchy.
Yeah. It's interesting debate.
Yeah.
Especially in light of some recent events.
Yeah.
I was thinking of who's the woman that refused to give marriage licenses?
Kim Davis.
And the cake thing. Yeah, it's well, it's just not really a getting fired thing. It's more of a, are they legally allowed to refuse service to? Yeah, which is
a public official refusing to comply with a Supreme Court order.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't understand how things like the cake situation can be anything other than discrimination. I don't understand how it's different from serving somebody who's not refusing to serve someone who's black. I don't see how that's
it'll be used as for people who want to do that if it passes. That's why I think that it won't pass the Supreme Court's muster, but you never can tell. I know that they said that the court
still has
was skeptical
those kind of things.
They said that the justices seemed skeptical about this. How and that the case of the petitioners was not good.
Then why are they even hearing it?
Yeah. Anyway, awkward pause.
Anyway, yeah. Well, not awkward, just depressing.
Yeah.
Depressing pause.
I think I summed it up.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eve. That was interesting. And interesting debate surrounds that issue. If it's approached rationally, other side issues of that, maybe not so much. But hey, we'll see how bad it gets before we all move to Australia. on a more, depressing note, vampires. Who can live with them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, bring up the first slide.
Really? Do I have to? This one? Is it the?
Yes, that's Mozambique and
Yeah.
Malawi. Mozambique is on the coast. Malawi, not so much. That's the coast of Africa. South Africa's at the southernmost tip down there. Kind of in the south of Zimbabwe, who's had a hell of a last couple of weeks.
Tanzania, which is
there's something going on in Zimbabwe?
There's always something going on in Zimbabwe.
But Malawi, that's where Madonna goes for her kid shopping.
To pick up children.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, it's one of the poorest countries on the planet. And it's also been overrun with mobs of vampire hunters.
Oh.
Because of course it has.
They were in California.
Vampire hunters in California?
Mm-hmm.
Sunnydale?
Yeah.
That's vampire slayers. However, the fires must be hell on vampires.
That's true. That's why they all moved to Mozambique.
Well,
Malawi and Mozambique. It's actually there have been problems on both sides of the border, so it's not certain where the most recent. Okay, so a couple of months ago in September and October, there was a rash of it was kind of a mass hysteria where mobs started swarming on people who they thought were vampires. And a number of people were killed. I think something like 7 people were killed, and 150 or something people in Malawi were arrested for being part of these vigilante mobs. And what they seem to be attacking is something called bloodsuckers. Now, I'm not sure that anyone is. I wonder if there might be translation issues going on here. Kind of like the Mami Wado is translated as a mermaid, where it's actually kind of a water spirit, that a bloodsucker is becoming, turned into a vampire, But bloodsucker seems to be the word that's used in local reporting. But since then, it looked like things had calmed down. Even noticed the first Malawi vampire story in September, and then there's another. People are now telling the story again. It appeared in the Daily Mail and the International Business.
What's that?
That's the one. In a couple of different places, it's shown up again in the French press as well. And I'm not exactly sure why, because I wasn't able to find anything really new. The attacks were, again, that they when you have these types of outbreaks of mass hysteria, often as a population that's under stress somehow, and these people are rural, they are in financial hardship. The Peace Corps is there. Well, at least they were, until they were pulled out of 2 districts that that just became too dangerous. The UN and the Peace Corps pulled out. The network Al Jazeera reported on the initial scare with some really amazing footage of children fleeing their school because they thought it was being attacked by bloodsuckers, and just all these kids in their little uniforms. Wah! It was just, yeah. And then they followed that up with an epileptic being stoned to death. Not as funny.
No, not at all.
No, and so I can't even find out exactly where it started, because the Malawi press is saying that it started in Mozambique, and Mozambique press is saying it starts in Malawi and spread across. But you have, up at this point, you have 250
Blame Zimbabwe.
Okay. Robert Mugabe did it. All right.
Where on this map is the place where they have the adamantium? No, never mind.
No.
It sounds so familiar, but I cannot place it. So sorry, I can't laugh.
Uganda. Where's Uganda?
The hell?
My
What is
God,
that
you people.
from?
Oh my God, you people!
Yeah,
What is
yeah.
that from? That's gonna drive me
This is
crazy.
gonna be Black Panther, isn't it?
Yeah, it's this Black Panther reference.
Yeah,
ahead.
isn't it hidden though?
How would I know that?
Because it's coming out soon.
I.
'Cause it's
And you were just talking about how
Oh,
much you like
wait,
Marvel.
not the
Come on.
not the movement.
Yeah, but I don't know anything
The
about
movie.
them.
Not
Yeah.
Got it.
this one.
Oh, all right.
A movie. So anyway, yeah, the government of Malawi's had the president has had a peculiar variety of responses to the vampire outbreak in his country. At the time of the original outbreak, the president Peter Mutharika promised to crack down on vampires. According to Reuters, quote, "If people are using witchcraft to suck people's blood, I will deal with them." And I asked him to stop doing that with immediate effect, because that's usually what stops the vampires, is politely asking them in a press release, right?
I will deal with them. It sounds like Trump. You know?
I don't know,
But
believe me,
Because
we've
no one
got
else can
this.
do it.
We've got a wall of garlic.
We'll take care of it. I'll take care of it.
We've got the best vampires. Big league.
God almighty. So yeah, more recently though, he said in the Daily Nation that there is no evidence of bloodsuckers. Those spreading, it's a lie meant to destabilize the region. So he's talking about this conspiracy of vampire bloodsucker people, and then he's disproving that with another conspiracy theory. Those spreading rumors will face the law.
Really, they
So
should go with-
basically,
And really, it would be nice if you would please stop that with immediate effect.
they should take a lesson from like the Norwegian area and just go with it for the tourism. So like they do the
well,
nuns
the
and stuff
problem
like
is that the mobs have been dragging Europeans out of their cars and beating them.
Hmm.
So tourism
Well,
has
I mean,
tanked,
you do have
and
to
people
kind
are
of,
starving because they
rein
don't
it in
have.
a bit, but
Yeah,
have mob tours, and I don't know.
yeah.
Promote,
So
the good things about vampires.
Yeah.
I don't know.
the marketing opportunities.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It definitely sounds like it must be so. There are vampire-like beliefs all over the
Absolutely.
damn
Yeah.
world, but they're significant differences. I mean, one of the things that marks what we think of as vampires, European vampires, is that they're dead. So, going after an epileptic doesn't seem.
That sounds like someone's bewitched or is harboring demons or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Well,
like going after the albinos or something because they're witches or what have you.
and actually, in the sidebar to a lot of these stories, they were talking about those populations too, being persecuted because of superstitious beliefs. I think what happened this week is that a couple of people started describing their attacks in public, and as best I could tell, there were two big ones two retellings. One was, if we bring up the image, Jamia Baleni. She is a 40-year-old single mother from the Fiolo district. And according to the International Business Times, she narrated her experience and said an attacker entered her house and sucked her blood. Quote, "This is not hearsay," Baleni told a fascinated crowd in an unpronounceable village. Nilongliwa.
Is that what they say?
Nilongliwa.
Or is that you that's saying that?
I was saying that.
Oh.
That was what's called a deadpan.
I
So, quote, "I know my blood was sucked. I saw light on the corner of my roof. I failed to stand up from my bed and felt something piercing my left arm," she said, pointing near her breast. Baleni said before she fell unconscious, quote, she heard someone fleeing the scene. She was taken to a local clinic and given vitamin supplements. A similar story was told by Florence Kalunga, who reported she saw a light like fire when she was sleeping alongside her husband. Quote, I heard the door open. I felt something like a needle in my finger, she said. And this one, I gave it to my students this today just to see if they would come up with the answer. And you know, they were trying to come up with, maybe they're doing it for attention. And you're like, okay, so that's always possible. But this, you know, they're both in bed. One says she failed to get up, so I wonder if that's a translation for being paralyzed. And so I wonder if it's not just a.
There's nothing clearly that sounds like sleep paralysis, though. I mean, some vampire stories from again, you know,
somebody a presence in the room, not able to move, and you're in bed.
They don't say not able to move.
Well, they don't, but yeah. Okay, so they're vampires.
They like someone sitting on their chest.
Clearly, it's you know, I mean, listen to the stories. It's clearly a vampire. There's no other explanation.
Listen to the victims. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Just believe.
The other thing is that they both talked about like a light or a fire, and I wonder if that was a local variation. You know, if that's primed by expectation or something. I don't know. But yeah. There seems to be a strong economic angle to this.
Tourism.
Well, not. Yeah. Actually, it's the Europeans coming in with aid for the locals, and some people say, "Well, why would you do that for free? You must want something. You want blood." You know. Also, one of the people was targeted.
Well, I'll take some, but you know,
I don't need
really,
it.
it's not necessary.
I mean, two Europeans were dragged from their cars and beaten in September because they were clear. You know, they said that they were looking for blood, looking to steal blood. But there was a guy, an entrepreneur, who apparently had
blood tourism.
Blood tourism. Clearly.
A guy with a nice car and house, whose house became the site of a mob who were, you know, with stones and let me see. He said that they had stones and machetes or something, and it sounded like a full blown riot. He said 2,000 people came to his house. I don't know about that, but they did disperse it with tear gas. So it sounded like it was a pretty big crowd, and the mobs are of young people. So there might be an economic angle to it, to the have-nots going after the haves. There's a lot of distrust, clearly. Some of the people, you know, seem like they're at the edge of society, or not in typical circumstances in the society, maybe. But it's a difficult one to understand, I guess, without like direct context of the people and the beliefs and the history to unpick why exactly this happens. But I mean, I think it's a mass panic. Clearly a population under stress, you know. But so that's the vampires. Don't stone epileptics, I think, is the moral.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much a good moral for anyone.
Yeah. That's what I'm landing on.
I mean, if you mean actually stoning, don't stone epileptics.
Yeah.
Metaphoric, it's a little more.
No, don't even metaphorically do it. Just don't. It's a gateway metaphor.
It's a gateway.
So yeah.
Show we can make. Okay. We get any comments? I'm gonna check this thing and stuff.
This thing and stuff.
Yeah, there's the thing on the stuff with
With the
the
comment.
stuff and the things.
The
With
thing.
the deal.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple of political comments. A nice joke about the French press, which is exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Oh, it's
can't-
French.
I
Yeah.
can't hear French anything without it. Everything matched with French is funny. Because
French Chihuahua.
Yeah, they're funny.
there is
Not
French everything.
Way.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's the whole
I would
Pulp
rather.
Fiction joke.
Yes, it should say French media, not
Do you
French
know what they
press.
call that in France?
Hmm.
Le Big Mac. So moving right along, Barbara's got a really interesting story tonight.
And it's not depressing.
It's not
Good.
depressing, which is always.
Oh, we'll get there. Don't you
Yes.
worry.
So Eve sent me this, which I did have a topic, but I didn't. I would have had to do some research because I don't understand the topic. I just think it's really cool. So I'll bring that up at some other time when I do the research. Because when I got this email from Eve, it immediately jumped into my face and said, "You must talk about me." So if you will bring up the first slide.
Oh yeah.
And play the video.
Permission
You have to
view.
play the video. You need permission.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. How? Oh, because it's on my Google. Crap. Okay, hang on. Let me fix it real quick. Did you request access?
I did.
Okay. Hang on.
This is a tutorial for all of us.
Okay. Yeah. I gotta
Alright, so
add you to everything now because there's like 3 others on there.
I don't
Make
know
sure
how
I've got that.
to fix that.
Okay.
Mhm.
This is gonna take just a second. Talk among yourselves.
So vampires.
Okay. So I have shared that one. Let me share the others. Go ahead and go ahead and
It's gonna
play
work.
that one.
Watch. And yes,
Um,
I can hear it.
Can you hear it?
I can.
Can you, Eve?
I saw a discussion about this. I feel the way some other people expressed it, not quite here. Doesn't
Do you
use quite the right word.
do you experience something auditory? Because that's enough.
It's sort of a feeling of an impression of sound.
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
if that makes
It's
sense.
not like I'm hearing it.
No.
Actually, it's more
No,
like
you know
I
it's not-
feel it. It's like
The way I
as if
describe
I
it
was
is
hearing it. Yeah.
you're hearing it, but you know it's not coming in through your ears.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Perhaps, yeah, I guess.
Okay.
I think for me, it's more of a feeling of hearing it. It's not hearing it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
there one kid described it. This was actually sent out by a woman who studies. Let's see, she's from the Institute of Neuroscience and Psychology at University of Glasgow. On her Twitter, and asked people whether they what they experience. And one kid described it as he doesn't hear it, but it makes but he feels it.
Yeah.
He said,
Yeah, I think that might be closer.
I can't hear it, but my body can feel it. That was a 7-year-old kid. So what's interesting about this, can you play it again?
Yeah, sure.
What do you hear? What do you hear or feel or whatever it is that you think you're hearing? What do you hear? How would you describe it?
Like a bouncing pound kind of sporing.
Thunk, like a thunk.
Yeah, it's kind of. I mean,
Yeah, for me, it's a
I
thunk.
can. It's the sound that I would think that a bouncing electro pole would or tower would make.
Yeah, sort of a twangy,
it's
boingy thunk.
Yeah, my brain
one
interprets
person suspected that it was the shaking, and if you go to the next slide, that was causing that.
Ooh, another one.
And so they cropped it out. This is actually the same one, but they cropped out the thing, and you can you still hear it?
Well, I mean,
I can. However, we've already seen the first one.
Yeah, that's what.
And it can't just be that, because there are other examples of it, and I'm going to show you those in a minute. But what this brought up to me was this brought back something that I wrote 8 years ago.
I heard a cat.
Yeah, I did too. That's not mine.
Ah, that's a real sound.
So 8 years ago, I wrote a post on synesthesia.
Mm.
And hello, kitty. And I talked about it. I actually talked about it on the show at one point years ago. So this is a long time ago, but I showed you this video or this little clip. If you'll go to the next one, this is one that was put together by a researcher studying synesthesia.
I like this one.
So yeah, if you play it, that one's really bad. I actually clipped one together that plays a little bit longer on each end. So if you go to the next one, it's a little better. So researchers used this video and asked people if they heard something. And
Star Trek.
Yeah. That's so funny that you would say that. I hear something, and in their research, only about 1 in 100 people heard something. They estimated about 1 in 100.
Liars.
Thank you very much, Bob. I am with that 1 in 100, and
well, I've always said that about you.
Well, this
definitely
was,
1 in
these are
100.
people.
You're definitely.
I'm 1 in a billion, pal.
Okay, sure, the 2.
You realize that 1 in 100 is better than a 1 in a billion, right?
No.
Right.
Yes.
No, it's not.
Yes.
I'm more unique than that.
Unique doesn't take a modifier.
It's
Just saying.
True.
It's the amount
true.
of the whole that makes. Never mind. Forget it.
Okay. So this was used by researchers, and they explained the auditory sounds of synesthesia. Now, people do explain the bouncing GIF, or the loud, what's called a loud GIF, as synesthesia as well. And synesthesia is basically cross-modal. So it's a crossing of modalities. So you have an experience of one sense when you are, or you have the perception of another sense when you are experiencing a different sense. So this is usually caused, what they believe causes this is encroachment. So you have nerves in the brain that cross or take in information or take in input from areas that are not theirs. So if you have, adjacent areas, so like you have motor or sensory areas that are right next to, areas that process, say, numbers, then numbers can have colors. That's the most common form, is people who, when they see a number, that each number has a unique color to it, and they actually experience that color. And there's a way to test that too. It's not just a feeling that the number 5 is green or blue or whatever. It is an actual experience of blue, and it's really fascinating the way they test that. And I have a link to a blog post where I explain how they test this. This was written by written about by Ramachandran, who did some of this research in one of his books, and it's absolutely fascinating. But this, I always thought this motion thing was really cool, because it's a lot more common than the number color thing, or the classic synesthesias that we know about. Things like if you've ever read any Oliver Sacks, he wrote some in The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, or there's actually a whole book. In The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, there are synesthesia stories. There's actually a whole book, The Man Who Tasted Shapes, on synesthesia. So I just find it fascinating, but there's a good explanation for this that doesn't involve the same explanations for other synesthesias. And they talk about it a little bit in the post that the BBC post that Eve shared with me. And that is that we have these neural pathways, and neural pathways are experience based. So we start, from birth, we start experiencing things. And as we experience things, these neural pathways grow, the dendrites grow, the things that create your brain develops based on the experiences that you have. And I always describe it in class as if you think about the first wagon train, there was no path to follow, right? But the more wagons that go in the same direction, the more the grass gets beaten down, and pretty much, and then pretty soon the grass doesn't even grow there because it's being beaten down. So, and that becomes the more grooves get kind of built into the grass, the easier it is for the next wagon to go through. And that's what happens with neural pathways, is the more you experience something, the easier it is to experience it. So muscle memory works that way. That's why, when you play sports, you practice the same moves over and over and over and over and over and over again until they're natural, like wax on, wax off, right?
I have wagon grooves in my head.
Yes, you do. And the reason that the Karate Kid was able to do all those things was because his muscles knew. Yes, it was in the script, but there's some truth to that script, and that is his muscles knew what to do. And there are techniques that coaches use to teach kids sports, and that is they do a certain movement until they are fatigued, and then they rest a little bit, and then they do it again.
Does a montage work? Because
a montage usually works in the movies, really, really well. Especially if you bring in things from all, sort of ballet and all that stuff too.
That's the Hollywood way of repeating.
Yeah. But anyway, that's how memory works. It's how memory works. It's how everything works. And because we experience things together, we often experience visual things and auditory things together. I think we build these pathways. What's fascinating, though, is that not everybody hears a whooshing sound when they watch that video like I do. That the reason that that I think that I hear a whooshing sound when I watch that video is because that looks like stars to me, like it does to Brian. And to me, I feel like I'm in a spaceship because I watched too much Star Trek when I was little. And it feels like I have the sensation like I would if I were in an airplane. And in an airplane, what do you hear? The airplane it's loud. It's almost like you don't think about it because it's like background noise, but it's sort of white noise, but it's loud. I mean, there is a sound to it. And that's sort of what I hear when I watch that, because to me, it's like being in a spaceship. So at least that's what I imagine. So I think the thunking thing, I mean, I play games on my iPad all the time, and there are all sorts of animations with even puzzle games today. They aren't, they don't just suddenly, things don't just suddenly change. They have little animations that make the little marbles move, or the, whatever it is, everything moves. And I hear noise with anything, even though I keep the sound off. To me, these things have noise. They have a sound to them. And that's true for almost everything. I mean,
what are the marbles saying to you, Barb?
I didn't say they spoke. I said they make noise. And it's not.
Do the whooshing sounds tell you to do anything?
Mm-hmm. But like,
Tell me about the White Album.
If you're doing something where you tell the marble to move a few spaces, I hear it go thunk thunk thunk. I hear that, and it's not a sound that comes from my ears. I know that, but it is a sensation of sound. And what I found fascinating is only 1 in 100 actually hear something when they watch that video, and yet the animation that we first showed, 70% of the people who responded to her said that they heard a thunk. 3% said they heard something else. I don't know what that something else is, but 3% said that. So 73% of people actually heard something. Squish noise, yeah. Or a boing.
Eee!
So I looked a little bit for other animated GIFs that might do that, and I found a list that was like 47 of the loudest GIFs. Only a few of them actually made noise in my head, but
47, huh?
I thought I'd share some of them because they're
Seems
fun.
arbitrary.
Yeah. Well, some of them really did seem to make some noise to me, so I thought I would share those with them. So if you go to the next one, there's
That one
some
is
more.
nice. I like that one.
You know what? I'm not hearing anything because it's not smooth.
Yeah, me neither.
I think if it were playing normally, I hear a thump, thump, boom, boom,
I
boom,
hear-
boom.
Yeah, I hear it. Smooth.
Yeah, why
Next
is it not? I don't know.
Well,
I
because
don't know if it's
playing
worth
on
it.
my
'Cause it's-
laptop.
I
and
know,
it's
but
streaming through here, and then it's being aggregated out. And yeah,
that's irritating.
I don't know if it's going to be streamed on the actual YouTube stream. We could link the stuff, like we always link everything we talk about on here.
Yeah, I could add a link.
Sarcasm.
Maybe they're.
But then you have to weed through the other ones, and most of them are crap. Most of them are stupid. I just pulled out the ones that made noise to me. Go on to the next one, yeah. See if it's any better.
Oh boy! See, I heard that one because I said it.
Yeah. Do you hear something though when you see it? I do.
Yeah, I do.
And the next one?
But see, Steve Carell narrates my inner monologue.
Yeah.
I know, right?
I think I've just seen the scene enough that there's no way I can't hear it, not hear it. And I hear it in Steve Carell's voice.
I know. Next one?
Yeah.
More? Cool. Oh.
This one.
Yes.
Do you hear the twang?
Yes, I hear it.
How do you not hear that twang? I hear the twang.
I've been around those things for a long time, and you hit
Twang.
Doing exactly that. What the little puppers?
I don't know. Are there any more?
I think Hannah's dog playing with this.
Oh yeah.
Boing.
This one, yeah. This one is boing to me. This one I would think would
Even though
vary.
the physics aren't right, but
yeah,
the physics
still
it doesn't matter.
It's so well done though.
The tension on that trampoline would have to be amazing for this to be real.
Well,
But,
yeah,
you know,
but
sorry.
It's the way that I think it's because the camera's so far back that you can almost imagine it's just a ball, you know, boing boing, and just I think it's brilliantly done.
Going,
yeah, so cute.
Whee!
And that's probably the last one, isn't it?
Oh no!
No, there's one more.
I like this one.
Yeah, even the animated ones.
Totoro's awesome.
And part of that is because they make it look like the camera shake. Oh no, there's one more. Yep. I hear that. I hear that crash.
I think it's too loud. Oh wait.
I hear that crash.
He's like, I don't know what just happened. So
So I think that
did it get shot or something? I'm like, what? It's just randomly.
Do you not know?
Yeah.
But I do think that the reason for this type of synesthesia probably has more to do with the constant pairing of sounds.
Yeah,
you know,
this seems habituation.
Yeah, but it is still a sensation. It is a sensation. Only about 50% of people. Let's poll the room. How many of you, when you read without moving your lips, hear a voice in your head? All of you. Okay.
Yeah.
Me too.
It's Morgan Freeman. Is that weird?
Can you shut it off?
Not and read effectively.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, me either. I about 50% of people hear a voice in their head when they read, and about 50% of those cannot shut it off. Unfortunately, that's always driven me crazy because it makes me read very slowly. But I do feel like if I even try to shut it off, I can't read effectively. I can't read effectively without it. And what's interesting about that is only about 50% do, because we know now that language is coded auditorily. It is that words are, we learn language, which makes sense because we learn it auditorily, but even deaf people process language in auditory regions. And we know a lot, we've done a lot of really fascinating research. There's a lot of great research methods for studying this, like people respond to words that can't be pronounced. You can create nonsense words that can be pronounced, and you can create nonsense words that can't be pronounced. And we can respond much more quickly. Yeah. And that one you can spell, yeah.
And then there's onomatopoeia.
Yeah. But we can respond much more quickly to words that can be pronounced than we can to words that can't be pronounced, even when we're reading them and not hearing them. So that tells us that language must be coded auditorily, using what we call auditory codes. So it's fascinating that our visual and our auditory can hook up like that.
Have any of you read any of the Richard Feynman biography books?
No.
Yeah, there's there's like 2 or 3 of them, and they're like a collection of his notes and some autobiographical
Is
stuff.
it Surely You're Joking, Mr.
No,
Yeah,
I've heard them.
Yeah.
I've heard of them. I just haven't read them.
But he talks about he like meeting a guy in college, and he explaining how he can keep time in his head. So like he would start counting and keep the counting internal while he's doing something else, while he's having a conversation, and in his head still counting.
Chefs have to do that all the time.
Well, to me,
they have ways of keeping time.
That's baffling that you can do that, because the counting
practice.
I know.
It actually it doesn't surprise me, because it is a different it's a different type of task from a verbal task. So I would be surprised if somebody could count in their head and do something else that required numbers, anything mathematical or anything counting related. But I doing something, we can actually multitask pretty well when the tasks are completely different modalities. We at least multitask better.
But I mean, for me, the numbers are kind of also tied to that verbal sense. At least the counting would be. I mean,
depends on how you count.
Yeah.
If there's something that's repeating in the background, I often have an accurate count of how many times it's gone off. And you know what? Somewhere around 30, I start to notice.
Well, if you think about it, if you think about music, you could probably have a conversation and still keep track of a song that's familiar to you.
No, I can't.
No, I mean, I'm mostly talking to Brian, actually.
Like the guy, like Hudson Hawk. One of the best.
That involves
movies
counting of some sort.
Yeah, well, they would keep time with their heists by singing show tunes.
Yeah, there you go.
To like to live on a star.
Wasn't in Alchemy
movie,
text you would keep time for how long a reaction was supposed to go on by the number of Hail Marys you said?
I've never studied alchemy, but it makes sense.
Eve, she's tuned out. Yes. Yeah. Possibly.
What?
In her alchemy.
I thought you tuned out.
No. I don't know. Possibly. It might be in. I don't know. I haven't read a lot of alchemy, but.
Well, it'd be out. I mean,
sort of thing.
Anything. It's a way of passing time. If you're giving instructions for cooking or something, and then you say 3 Hail Marys, and that's how long it's supposed to be in the pot or something.
Okay.
Okay. Fine.
Okay.
Be that way. Now go say your Hail Marys.
Yeah, no.
It's show tunes are more fun, so trust me.
No, they're not.
And all right, heat for the length of Pirates of Penzance. No.
The Mikado, possibly.
No.
On that note, that was very interesting, Barbara. I enjoyed that. I tend to enjoy your interesting perception stories.
Well, what I find most interesting is the research methods they use to
Oh,
weed
yeah?
this stuff out. Sometimes, yeah.
People
Like,
are so
how
clever
do you know
when it
it's
comes
not
to
this,
testing
and how
this
do you know
stuff.
it's not that? You
That's-
can be,
Yeah.
and it drives me crazy because there are entire factions of psychology that will argue that something we believe isn't true. Like, for example, people who argue that autism is not a social problem but a verbal one, that it's just a lack of verbal skills, because they believe that all of this research that shows that it's a social problem is really just that the person couldn't respond correctly. They don't really understand how to respond, and they don't think about the fact that if that's what you believe, then find a way to test it. And there are ways, and that's what people do. They go back and say, okay, well, this is an alternative hypothesis that actually makes sense, so let's test it. And you eliminate that hypothesis, and what do you have left? Social problem. And there's great examples of research doing that. But if you have no creativity, just because you haven't tested it just because you have an alternative hypothesis doesn't mean your hypothesis is better than another one. You find a way to test it, because there is going to be a way. And synesthesia is a good example. How do you know that people don't just feel that this goes with this? How do you know that people don't just feel that Fridays are warm?
I was gonna say Black Uniform Day.
Black Uniform Day?
Yeah, but nobody here is baseball ishy. So anyway.
But anyway, you find a way to test it, and they usually find a way to test it. And I explained, as I said in that blog post, how we test for true synesthesia, how we know that people are actually experiencing this, at least the numbers colors thing. There's ways to test other forms of it as well, but and that is, there are things that you can't do that are implicitly, like, you can't change how fast you respond to something. You have to find a way to test the ability. And anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm kind of rambling here. It's hard, but you find a way, and it makes sense, and you can eliminate these other explanations, and then the one that's left is probably the correct one, unless you can come up with some other one.
Unless it's not replicable.
Yes, well, that's true too.
Anyway, great stories, guys, and we're over time. Really quick, I want to give credit to Nathan Miller for guessing the movie behind me before I even asked anyone to guess the movie behind me. And congratulations. This is one of many that is on my regular holiday viewing list. It is the most Christmassy Batman movie ever made, and it is Batman Returns. So there you go. I don't think we have any announcements this week. Do we have any announcements this week? Because I didn't see any on the notes, and I'm going with the notes. No? In case you didn't know, the end of the year is coming. There you go.
Oh, he's going to tell you what he wants for Christmas, people.
No.
Get a pen.
There's only one thing I want for Christmas, and none of y'all are going to give it to me. Book time. We got book time. You guys have books?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That was a joke, by the way. I was waiting for the studio audience to laugh at that one, but no. Nobody laughed. Because we can't afford a studio audience.
Oh, yeah. Had sound effects for a while.
Yeah, well, that's so fake.
Mm.
Who wants to go first?
I will.
Okay, go.
Example number 1. Very few white men have been president of the United States. Therefore, very few presidents have been white men. Example number 2.
What?
A fairly small percentage of automobile accidents involve drivers over 70. Therefore, a fairly small percentage of drivers over 70 are involved in automobile accidents. Example number 3. Most conservatives are not media personalities on Fox News. Therefore, most of the media personalities on Fox News are not conservative. Example 4. Most wealthy people are men, so most men are wealthy. Example 5. Most modern terrorists are Muslims. Therefore, most Muslims are modern terrorists.
We actually hear that on Fox sometimes.
Example number 6.
Everything about this is painful.
Most modern terrorists are religious people. Therefore, most religious people are terrorists.
Are you going to keep going? Because
nope.
I don't know what this book is already. Anyway, it's probably some good examples. Who's next? Eve, you want to go?
Sure. In the 18th century, the historical footnote was a high form of literary art. No Enlightenment historian achieved a work of more epic scale or more classic style than Edward Gibbon's History of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. And nothing in that work did more than its footnotes to amuse his friends and enrage his enemies. The religious and sexual irreverence became justly famous. In his Meditations, said Gibbon, the historian of the Emperor Marcus Aurelius, husband of the notoriously gallant Faustina, he thanks the gods who have bestowed on him a wife so faithful, so gentle, and of such a wonderful simplicity of matters. The world, urbanely reflects Gibbon the annotator, has laughed at the credulity of Marcus, but Madame Dacier assures us, and we may credit a lady, that the husband will always be deceived if the wife condescends to dissemble.
You may credit a lady. Sorry. Bob?
Probably only those physicians whose work brings them in daily contact with the pitiful wrecks resulting from the misuse of narcotics can appreciate to the full the ghastly irony of the claims made by purveyors of this poison that, quote, habitina is intended strictly as a treatment and not as a substitute. What actually occurs is well shown in the report of Dr. Steeren and a case of blindness resulting from the use of this dangerous nostrum. Here, a patient, before taking habitina, was ingesting 6 grams of morphine daily. After taking this morphine cure, she was taking 16 grains of morphine and 8 grains of heroin a day.
Yay!
Oh my God. The spotlight lingers for a minute. The broad square of the pizza box bearing the Costa Nostra logo is mute testimony. They hover, shoot a little tape just in case. Whitey's bored. She gets on her plank. The wheels blossom and become circular. She guides a tight, wobbly course around the cars, coasting down the street. The spotlight follows her for a moment, maybe picking up some stock footage. Videotape is cheap. You never know when something will be useful. You might as well videotape it. Barbara, what's your book?
30 More Fallacies by Michael Labrassiere.
I'm not familiar with Labrassiere, but it's interesting.
That was illicit conversion.
It's the best kind of conversion.
Or is he just... What is his background? What is he?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
I imagine he's a philosopher.
Okay. Eve?
The footnote. A curious history by Anthony Grafton.
That's cool.
Interesting.
All right.
Front page is cool. Yeah. Okay.
So mine is Nostrums and Quackery. This one came today by Arthur J. Cramp, writing for the American Medical Association, Volume 1, previously owned by Edna Truman. Edna, we will never forget you.
Wow. I can't top that.
What was yours?
Mine is Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash, which I may have done on the show before. I'm rereading it
I
recently
don't recognize it.
because I love the whole world he paints. But I thought it was hilarious. This is written in the early '90s about a future where there is where America has devolved into all kinds of corporate entities.
Huh.
And the internet is virtual reality, and there's all kinds of other crazy stuff going on. But I think it's funny that the internet is on this is in ways ahead of where we are now, yet they still use videotape.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when you,
Yeah.
that's why I chuckled about the videotape.
Yeah, that's why I picked that quote, because that was interesting. Videotape is cheap.
Yep, and today it doesn't even
Videotape
matter
is
anymore.
hard to find, actually, but hey. Anyway, so that's the things and the stuff at the place with the people. And I'm trying to find my notes so I can close out this thing. Is there anything on the intertubes we need to mention? No, the audience has been nicely compliant.
Very well behaved. Well done.
Well behaved. Thanks for not causing any trouble.
Or at least quiet, anyway.
Yeah. And thank you especially for tuning in. Here's the logo. Here's the music. Here's my shtick. Virtual Skeptics is an independent production on what's-the-hard.net. Skeptic News, myself, ICBF everywhere, and also news. The logo was designed by Sarah Maine at sarahmaine.com, and our theme music is by Nick. Thank you all for watching.